The purpose of this plan is to share with you how my team and I are going to work hard in the next few years to help burn the clouds away, to make way for the light of a new day. Okay? Now, our process. Very briefly, there are three things that are important here. We started this strategic planning process back in January of 2014. That's when the initial conversations began. And after a whole lot of internal discussions and refinement of ideas, we got board approval in April of 2015. That's when the board said yes. They ratified the plan you're about to hear about. And then we published it in February 2016 and posted it just recently, and we have handed it to each of you as you walked in so you can get a deep dive into what we're talking about. The plan basically is in pursuit of preeminence. That's the next P, preeminence. Preeminence is not something I made up. In fact, Henry Lyman Morehouse talks about preeminence in an article he wrote establishing the purpose of Morehouse College back in 1896. He said, we must situate the education here so that it positions young men to leap forward into preeminence, a sense of who they are, being the best they can be in the world. And so, in my inaugural address, what I say, and that's where these words are from, we are determined to realize at Morehouse College the world of our dreams, a condition that features character and capital preeminence. Very simply, character preeminence means producing first-rate men, while capital preeminence means having a first-rate campus. And we will have the world of our dreams when we are recognizably and completely preeminent in both. That comes from my inaugural address, but it also comes from my biography. I was convinced. I am a Morehouse man. I love Morehouse. I love Morehouse. When I left Morehouse, man, this was the best 4 years of my life. Still is. All right? Proud of my time at Morehouse. I left Morehouse and went to Harvard University. I walked around Harvard University, saw this grand campus, saw this big endowment, saw all these students who didn't have a financial worry in the world, saw all these faculty who were well paid based on the marketplace, and I said, wow, what if we had had that back at Morehouse? Character and capital preeminence. I knew and I know that nobody beats Morehouse where character preeminence is concerned. The character and the men at Morehouse College who have come out of Morehouse College and who are still here working on it is better than the character of anybody coming from any other college. I believe that in my heart. And I'm telling you, the capital preeminence at Harvard University, where I now sit on the board, is a $40 billion endowment, and all this other wealth is unsurpassed too. So our idea is, what if we had character preeminence at a high degree and capital preeminence at a high degree in the same place at the same time? All right? That's never been done before. That's what this plan is about. So, our pillars. It's incumbent upon each president, each administration to clarify what the Morehouse man is on their watch. You've seen various presidents talk about what they're after in their student body. On my watch, we're talking about acuity, integrity, agency, brotherhood, and consequence. You run into most students on this campus, they'll tell you those five. Acuity means superior intelligence. It's not just merely being smart or brilliant, it's visionary intelligence. Acuity. Integrity. Doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. Agency. You happen to the day instead of the day happening to you. Brotherhood. Knowing how to love. And being consequential. Making a mark on the world. And if not a mark, a scratch. Making a difference somewhere in your life. We are about those 5 things. Everything that we're trying to structure here, particularly in the area of character preeminence, is about that. It's preeminence. And again, grounded in Henry Lyman Morehouse and among the great presidents of Morehouse. You know, I know everybody says Ben Mays was the greatest president ever of Morehouse or anywhere else. Obviously, there's plenty of evidence for that. But I encourage more of you to get into the life and purpose and words and meaning of John Hope. John Hope was a bad brother. All right? He came up with the phrase Morehouse man, and he kind of set the platform, the foundation upon which Ben Mays would stand. And I stand on the shoulders of giants too, but I challenge you to get into John Hope, and there's enough written about him to justify that. Our principles accentuate our distinctiveness. That comes first. That's what everything is grounded in. We are distinctive. There's nothing wrong with our brand. All right? There's nothing wrong with our tradition. We have to bring it out more. We have to accentuate it. All right? Now, a quick story, and my last minute here, because by accentuating our distinctiveness, we set the stage for all the other 4. Embrace innovation, rise to financial strength, attract talented people, and operational excellence and exceptional service. That's what we're about. But on distinctiveness, I'll tell you a quick story. I was in front of about 400 prospective students, and I asked them to name the 3 men in the last couple centuries, 3 men of African descent in the world, whose names anybody on any continent in the world today, their names would be known. There are 3 men of African descent who everybody around the world knows. You go on any continent, they'll know these 3 names of men of African descent. Anybody got a name? Throw it out. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Barack Obama. And Barack Obama on any continent in the world. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Barack Obama. They all have a Morehouse affiliation. Martin Luther King Jr. attended Morehouse. You all know that. Nelson Mandela stood on the stage in King Chapel and received an honorary degree, proud to be a Morehouse man. And in 2013, the first degree I handed out as president of Morehouse College was to Barack Obama as president of the United States. That's the 3 most well-known men of African descent on the planet in the last couple hundred years, all with a Morehouse affiliation. I'm proud of that. And I hope you're proud of it too. That distinctiveness is why they came. And I mean King, Obama, and Mandela. Our brand, our distinctiveness, it is still strong, and it sets the stage for everything else. And so therefore, in setting the stage, we are about 10 things. You'll see it in the strategic plan, 10 things. And the goals are very clear. You will see them right now to talk about them. And I have been true to my time. To talk about those goals, I'm going to call up our provost, Gadikai Campbell. Let me tell you about him as he comes. Here's when we were looking for a provost, we set up a faculty search committee. And they gave me 2 names as finalists. And I looked at those resumes, did some interviews, and called, in his case, Swarthmore. And I was told that the Swarthmore strategic plan was generated, first and foremost, by this man. So here we have a PhD, tenured math professor at Swarthmore who got into administration and generated a strategic plan for one of the strongest liberal arts colleges in the country that's still on their website, and it's an award-winning plan. And I said, Kai, I want you to lead this process and position us to do the kind of capital campaigning that the best in the business do. That's the plan you're about to hear about, and this is the man who generated it. Ladies and gentlemen, the provost of Morehouse College, Gadikai Campbell.
Hello, good morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of these goals, and I'm going to stay at a pretty high level here. And so just want to point out that we will have sessions after this big session here where we get a chance to talk a little bit more in depth. And in fact, this first goal is going to be the thing that I talk about in one of these smaller sessions in a little bit more depth. So, but I'll just give an overview here. So the first thing that we must do is strengthen our academic program, and for us that means four things. There are a number of very big initiatives that we've been working on, things that are connected to the things that we have done as a faculty, as an institution for a very long time. STEAM, we are an extraordinary, outstanding institution. One of the statistics that I recently became aware of is that of the students, of the black males who have earned a PhD in STEM in the last decade, 1 out of every 11 started at Morehouse College. That is extraordinary. So we will be thinking about how we amplify and magnify our STEAM efforts. STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics, and we are very purposeful about infusing arts into that effort, knowing that we can do more by doing that. MRI is the Morehouse Research Institute, a place that will be thinking about the context and conditions that impact black boys and black men. And I'll say a lot more in the session about that. But we have one. MRI exists today, and we're thinking about how we strengthen and do more in that area. A King initiative. We don't have. I think we've always been about social justice, but we don't have enough that really binds together the ideas, the impact, the legacy of King in our curriculum and in our research. And we have it individually, but not bound together. And so what we want to do is use this as an opportunity to really collect up those things and really put something together in force in that area. Very quickly, the other things, we want to live up, when we say transformative outcomes, we want to live up to the students' aspirations. Students come wanting to be doctors, lawyers, research scientists, to be entrepreneurs, to go off and do all of the things, the wide range of things. What we want to make sure that we're doing is matching our curriculum up and our infrastructure up to support those aspirations, every one of them. We have, I think, a very large general education program that we want to modernize. We want to think about active learning. We want to think about project-based learning. We want to allow for students to really have a chance to explore who they are early on, not just wait till the time that they get to a major. And then we need to all that work has to begin with attracting and retaining the very best faculty. When you go and you talk to folks about what really made a difference in their experience here at Morehouse, oftentimes there's at least one faculty member that is a big part of that, and we need to make sure that we are supporting that. We need to explore, we need to innovate pedagogically. I think in this day and age, everyone knows what we call the sage on the stage, the person standing here lecturing to a classroom. That's actually a dying kind of way of engaging students. We need to think about new ways of engaging. Like I said, active learning, getting folks doing hands-on stuff, thinking about using technology more effectively. So we are exploring and pushing on that, and we'll need to do more of that. What we know is that students need more than just what they get in a classroom. We need to make sure that we're having conversations with them outside of the classroom, thinking about where they're going, thinking about their own habits, their own behaviors. And we want them to mature. We want them to have agency, to take command of their own learning experience. But they often need help, particularly in the earlier years. And so we are thinking a lot about deploying the right kinds of technologies, the right kinds of efforts to make sure that we have our eyes on students, that we are developing them, nurturing them, giving them the kind of guidance and advice that they need. And this is a place where we will definitely be reaching out to alums to really help magnify and amplify what we're doing in that space. I'm going to now turn it over to our VP for Student Development, Tim Sams, and he'll pick up and talk a little bit more about some of the other things that we're doing.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. When we break off into my small group, we're going to talk about student development and the student experience. This is going to give you an opportunity to hear about a lot of the innovative efforts that are going on within student development. Along the lines of Goal 3, you see 2 items here. You see, deploy the OneStop. That's our effort to really get at the operational excellence that Dr. Wilson spoke about, and at the same time, significantly, dramatically improve the customer service proposition for our students. That represents a bringing together of the various services that relate to admissions, financial aid, registrar, student services in terms of bill payment, and bringing those efforts together to combine a seamless experience in terms of the matriculation and the ongoing registration for our students. Secondly, we're going to talk a little bit about improving the post-Morehouse support for our students. I'm going to specifically do a deeper dive in what we call our intervention strategy, our student success team. And interestingly, one of, if not the person who's leading that effort is in the room, and I'm going to ask him to stand up really quickly. He is our Assistant Vice President for Student Development and Director of Career and Disability Services, Counseling and Disability Services. So we're going to take an opportunity to look at the work that he's doing in his area. We're also going to move on to Goal 4. Goal 4 focuses on the quality of life, the quality of experience that our students are having. We're going to take a deep dive into our residential college model, and hopefully you're going to find a lot of innovative, exciting items there for us to discuss. We are endeavoring to create a more vibrant on-campus programming effort, and as we talk about the residential college model, you're going to hear about those things, and at the same time, we are seeking to strengthen athletics. Unfortunately, in our discussion today, we're not going to talk about some of the exciting things that we have ramped up for athletics, because we would be here another hour in that discussion. Then finally in our discussion, let me go back to Goal 4. We're also going to take an opportunity to talk about some of the student activism and engagement that we've experienced over the course of this last semester. So that'll be the opportunity where we talk about some of our ongoing efforts to really embrace our social justice posture as a Morehouse community. Then finally, we're going to talk about what is on most folks' mind. How are we doing in terms of enrollment, and what are our areas of adventure in terms of expanding our diversity pool, our international student body, as well as how are we really leveraging our summer programs to make sure that those students come fully engaged and properly prepared to engage in the rigor of the institution. And so these are some of the things we're going to discuss in a 30-minute period when we do our break-off session. I'm now going to turn it over to our Vice President for Operations, Mr. Bill Taggart.
Good morning, gentlemen and guests. My name is Bill Taggart, and I have the pleasure to serve as the Executive in Residence and Chief Operating Officer at Morehouse College. I see some friends in the audience, folks who remember me back years ago when I actually had hair on my head, and in some cases not as tall. But I'm a native of Atlanta with great love and affection for Morehouse College. I want to spend some time talking about the money aspect, and this is very, very important. I think what Dr. Campbell and Dr. Sams have communicated to you, along with President Wilson, are the building blocks that makes Morehouse College incredibly distinctive. But as we well know, it is a clear imperative that if we don't get the proper financial base, then to really support a mission, to give the resources that our faculty and staff needs, and the service quality that these young men expect, then we're not living up to the high expectations of those folks who came before us. So I want to walk through what we mean when we talk about capital preeminence. Because when it's all said and done, a vision without capital is just a dream deferred. And so it's great for us to have these wonderful programmatic themes, but we have to match them up with the capital base to be able to execute. So as the provost has already stated earlier, we have, I think, a number of kind of world-class ideas to move things forward. And if we really want to get the world of our dreams, as President Wilson states, then the capital piece is a pretty important part of it. So let me start off with goal number 5, which is to start off talking about the ability to attract and retain a 21st century workforce, which is comprised of the following things. First of all, we want to make sure that from a compensation standpoint, that we are in line to market. Someone who is a talented individual that comes to serve as a professor here or working staff, they can have great affinity and affection for this institution as they should, but should not have to take a market discount for their services. So we want to make sure that they are paid and paid well. Next, we want to make sure that we clarify and improve the full life cycle of support for faculty and staff. Said another way, we want to make sure that we are doing all that we should do to develop and invest in our own, to ensure that they remain bright, capable in their academic and functional capabilities. And then last, that we want to engage in innovative ways to bring talent to Morehouse College. What we talked about in the previous goal there is organically how we develop human capital. This is a case where we want to develop partnerships in many different levels. First, partnerships with industry. Next, partnership with alums and their networks. And then also partnerships with other institutions. Goal number 7 is related to improving our organizational culture. And culture, I think that you all understand, it's kind of the building blocks, and it's also the glue that binds us all to further the mission of Morehouse College. Now, although our culture is strong and it's vibrant, we ought to also take a hard look at it and make sure that we are continuing to improve so that we remain competitive in the marketplace. Therefore, we're going to look at the following 5 things from a cultural standpoint. First, we're going to expand our skill building and training capabilities with our staff. 2, we must do a much better job of treating data as the asset that it is and use it for better decisioning across the institution. Next, we want to build our capacity and willingness to assess our current state of affairs and engage in incremental improvement and where it makes sense, transformational change from a business process perspective. Next, strategic prioritization and project management. We want to make sure that we're doing the right things with the right staff, with the right money at the right time to get the right result. And that takes an element of laser-focused discipline from an execution standpoint. Next, we have to enhance our abilities to collaborate across departments. We have to focus not so much on where work is being done, but how work is being done, right? Our students, for example, don't care whether it's a functional breakdown that one group is pointing a finger at another. They care that the process is effective, it's efficient, and it hopefully exceeds their expectations. And so we're going to focus on that going forward. Goal number 8 is related to building a world-class infrastructure. Now, there's no doubt that Morehouse is a very, very special place. There's no question about that at all. For we are one of the few institutions that really works on the mind, body, and soul of the young men that we're given the responsibility to educate. However, we must have the physical space, the technology, the operational capability, data management skills, and the communication capabilities to fully support the magic that happens in the classroom. We should not lose students based on style points. Let me say that again. We should not lose students based on style points, that someone else's dorms look better than ours, that another school has a nice, swank student center, and we don't. I think it's harder to develop the essence of what makes a Morehouse man than it is to build new structures. And we have to be very aggressive in this marketplace that we give the young men and their families the ability that they know they're going to get the substance at Morehouse, but we also need to give them the style points as well. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we got to take a look at our residence halls, athletic space, classrooms, to ensure they're in line to the expectations of not just students, but also faculty as well. That's a point of retaining talent. We have to make sure that our technology is deployed in a way in which it helps us to streamline our costs. It helps us to meet the expectations of faculty, staff, and students, and that it also helps to enhance the overall student experience. Next, our operations must continue to be diligent in terms of finding ways to become more efficient and effective. And next, as I stated before, the data that we have that is fragmented, put it into one central place so that we're able to know much more about what's happening here at the college and therefore be more proactive in addressing various issues. And last but not least, communications. Simply put, what we have to do is make sure we control the narrative in the marketplace as it relates to Morehouse College and be proactive in doing exactly that. Moving on to goal number 9, expand and better steward resources. First of all, I'll say that we've got to do a much better job in getting more resources and at the same time being very good stewards with that money and be transparent in terms of what happens when the dollars come through the door. And we're dedicated to do exactly that. And so we have a wonderful story to tell at Morehouse College to the philanthropic community. We have a wonderful brand, great track record, wonderful alums, and what we need to do is build an internal capability to be able to monetize that and bring the much needed dollars to Morehouse that frankly Morehouse deserves and Morehouse has earned. And we plan to do exactly that. I will have a breakout session in which we will talk about fundraising in some level of detail, both short-term capital needs and longer-term capital needs, and would welcome you to attend those sessions. I want to turn it over to our CFO, and he's a guy who's come in here and really did, I think, a yeoman's job in righting the ship from a financial standpoint and showing us the pathway through a very difficult financial time. So Alan Robertson, or Dr. Robertson, give him his formal title, is going to come and talk more about this whole topic in terms of resources and stewardship. Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. To better achieve capital preeminence, expanding and better stewardship of our resources is absolutely critical. The Office of Business and Finance is focused on improving the stewardship of all of our assets across key areas, procurement, benefits, compensation, financial resources, and that includes our endowment. We're deploying the best practices in asset management and from donor intake to spending as well as timely reporting to all of our constituents. Some examples of this measure of success include our recent transfer of our endowment assets to Goldman Sachs. We've also implemented state-of-the-art software to manage the endowment as well as produce donor reports. We're currently exploring performance contracting. Those are energy-saving projects that are self-funding to help jumpstart the deferred maintenance that Bill talked about and improve the campus environment. And finally, to decrease our energy consumption and improve our carbon footprint. Secondly, we're focused on better engagement of the campus in terms of planning, and we're focused on involving them in the strategic budgeting and long-range planning process. Our major effort in this initiative will be to reconvene our budget and planning committee to create more inclusive and transparent budgeting process that leverages all of our resources and aligns them with our strategic priorities, including the World of Our Dreams Master Plan, which was unveiled, I guess, about a year ago. We're planning to have a balanced budget. We were planning to have a balanced budget, including capital expenditures by 2018, but we're very happy to report that we will present a balanced budget next week to the board for 2017, a year ahead of schedule. Our final initiative is to improve operating and financial efficiencies by deploying best practices in procurement, using technology to reduce our costs while safeguarding systems with the appropriate insight and data security to ensure internal controls and compliance. In procurement, we've saved millions by competitively bidding, and we're on track to save another $1 million in G&A costs in 2017. All of these efforts are critical and will help the college to improve its CFI ratio, which is a standard measure of health for colleges and universities. And that's the one thing that the rating agencies look at to judge our health. A healthy CFI is typically north of 6. We were at 1.9 at the end of fiscal 12, and we've improved that to 4 by the end of 15. And we anticipate with a balanced budget that number will continue to improve north of 6. We're aggressively managing our credit rating as well as our relationship with the credit agencies. We're currently an A- with Standard & Poor's and the Baa3 with Moody's. And we have plans to improve those bond ratings over time. And while it's not exciting, a key measure of success in fiscal integrity is reducing the number of audit findings and the materiality of those findings, and we've made strides in those areas. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll bring Dr. Campbell back up.
So very quickly, we know that this is an extraordinarily challenging time for families trying to afford going off to college. And everyone is aware of this. We know, I think everyone in this room is probably aware of the skyrocketing of student debt, trying to afford to go to college. And so we have an imperative, particularly for the young men that we train, the young men that come to Morehouse. We have an imperative to think about how we can lower the cost of this education. And so we're thinking about all kinds of things from, I mentioned earlier, online education. We're thinking about new ways to bring students to us. We have tons of summer programs. How do we most effectively utilize those summer programs and open up the doors a little wider? As we improve our physical space, how do we utilize our assets here at the college? How do we form, and this goes back to something that Bill Taggart mentioned, how do we form the right kinds of partnerships with industry, with others who have resources? One of the things, and I'll conclude with this, one of the things that we know is that there are many folks who come to Morehouse looking for our talent, looking for our students. And basically, a lot of times, those entities come to us looking to do what we call picking the fruit from the garden, right? We have produced a tremendous amount of fruit, and they want to just come in and pick the fruit. Well, what we're saying, what we're shifting our posture to is saying, no, you can pick the fruit. We've got lots of fruit to pick, but you also have to water the garden, right? And if you water the garden, not only will you be able to pick the fruit that we're already producing, but we know from what we do, we'll be able to produce a whole heck of a lot more fruit. So you do that, and that's what we can accomplish together.